Stephanie Vaquer hasn't even been in WWE for a year, but she's already been a key part of the women's roster on Monday Night Raw on Netflix around the world. There aren't many superstars you see in this day and age where WWE and AEW have a mini bidding war over, but one woman stood out among everyone: Stephanie Vaquer. WWE managed to capture her talents in this kind of mini contractual bidding war, and AEW simply was outbid. But why was WWE and AEW so desperate to get their hands on this hot free agent? How did she not come from the North American independent wrestling ranks or be a recruited collegiate athlete who we've seen come through the WWE system in the past? Her path is a proven road that WWE as a company is starting to bet on in a big way. We'll get into all of this. This is Sportskeeda Wrestling. I'm Kevin Kellum. Let's dive deep into La Primera, Stephanie Vaquer, and why she might be the next big women's star in professional wrestling. Hit the like button, subscribe, or you get the horns. With less than a year in WWE's developmental televised territory NXT, she managed to bag both the Women's North American Championship and the NXT Women's Championship. She's now on Monday Night Raw for an international audience on Netflix, and the reactions keep growing louder. It is truly an organic rise for this standout professional wrestler who has years underneath her belt before she ever stepped in a WWE ring. Who exactly is Stephanie Vaquer? What is all the hype behind her? And why is she doing something that could turn her into the next big superstar? Vaquer grew up in Chile in South America, loving animated shows like The Simpsons like most people did in the 2000s. Yeah, Simpsons did it. It was in her early teenage years when she began watching WWE and Lucha Libre, and it didn't take long for her to decide she wanted to become a pro wrestler. It was a bit hard to get into the wrestling ranks in Chile because the scene itself hardly existed at the time. For a young Chilean woman, the next best option seemed to be to go all the way up to Mexico and train to be a luchador there. To do that, she needed to raise money, and it would be the end of her pursuit of a formal career in the traditional path of life or just going to college. She initially intended to go for 6 months, and she never realized it would be a one-way ticket. 6 months was too little time to learn wrestling at that level, so at the age of 19, she moved to Veracruz, Mexico, and began training under Ultimate Guerrero in Villano 4. It gave her the opportunity to experience all of it up front and completely immerse herself in the business of Lucha Libre, and there it seemed that there was no doubt of her destiny. Still moving over 7,000 kilometers or nearly 12,000 miles from everything you know is not an easy tradition. Not having any family around you, going from a culture of zero wrestling familiarity to one obsessed with wrestling at its very core made it for a difficult transition. She had to up her game quickly, and it put her in a zone where she had to adapt or perish, and this meant training 3 times a day, every single day. She took a few years to reach that level, but it's a testament to the grind and determination she had. Being around this level of Lucha Libre culture meant that she was able to quickly realize having good in-ring abilities is only a fraction of what it makes to be a successful pro wrestler. The presence, the charisma, the style, the aura, that overused word, the adaptability, all of these elements, all of them coming together with that base of athletic drive is what makes an all-around wrestler. The nerves were high, the competition was stiff, and she had to navigate an unforgiving environment in CMLL, one of the top Lucha Libre promotions in the world, trying to find connectivity between her in-ring talents and everything else that attracts a general wrestling audience, and an audience that has a very high standard, and Vaquer found it more difficult than she first anticipated. But knowing that the grind and the difficulties came with it made it all the more of a determined success, because she knew that very few would walk the path that she was on. It happened at the iconic Arena Mexico, where she once dreamed of performing when she first witnessed it all as a spectator in the crowd. She also got the experience from excursions promotions to Japan, where she was rite of the passage that many pro wrestlers there take. It's a pretty brutal one. Thanks to CMLL's partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling, she crossed paths with huge names like Mercedes Moné, whom she failed to beat in a tournament to crown the inaugural New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Champion. At this point, she was in that discussion of being a breakout superstar. She defeated another name who had joined the WWE ranks in Julia and won the Women's Strong Championship in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Her reign ended at the hands of Mercedes Moné when they faced off again at the Forbidden Door event the following year. Now she was in the AEW ranks, but by this point, all eyes were on Stephanie. She didn't need to win these matches to get people to say, what's next for her, and when are we going to see her on American televised pro wrestling? She had done enough throughout her tenures in CML, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Revolution Pro over in Europe, and even sporadic appearances in AEW to prove that she was a massive asset to any major company. By the time 2023 to 2024 came around, Stephanie Vaquer had largely achieved the goal she had set for herself, closer to becoming a complete performer. Her confidence was growing exponentially, and when she became the strong women's champion of New Japan Pro Wrestling, also held the women's championship and the tag team championships of CMLL. She was a triple crown champion. She could not be denied. WWE came knocking at her door, and it led to a very dramatic saga briefly where the sports entertainment world was all fighting to see where she would sign. A bidding war was on for Stephanie. She represented everything that WWE wanted, and everything that All Elite Wrestling's Tony Khan wanted, and was impressed enough to want to offer her a contract, knowing well that WWE was probably interested at this point too. In July of 2024, Mexican newspaper Record reported that both WWE and AEW had offered her multi-year contracts, and it was noted that she would soon make her choice. This was weeks after the noted match that we already mentioned between Mercedes Moné and Stephanie at AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling's Forbidden Door, where Moné reportedly was intent on raising the stock of Stephanie despite taking a championship from her in the match. To cut the entire short into a concise level, WWE called her to Toronto to discuss a deal, and she declined being featured in the front row of an NXT show at the time, which WWE respected. All Elite Wrestling knew that she was in Toronto and urged her not to sign yet, reportedly, and when she asked them what the offer was, it was considerably higher than WWE's offer, reportedly. In the stress of all this, Stephanie brought her AEW offer to WWE, and they simply wished her good luck in AEW, seemingly expecting her to go there, and that seemed to be it. During this time, though, an emotional Stephanie discussed the matter with her father. This conversation may have proven to be decisive in a different direction for the sought-after superstar. She would choose WWE as her path next in pro wrestling. The lead producer of WWE NXT, Shawn Michaels, would reach out with a proposal, and as fate had it, it would be an appealing one. Obviously, doing this didn't make it easier for her in her exit, and reportedly upset a lot of people in CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling. For CMLL, she didn't fulfill her dates nor drop the two championships, including the Women's World title. With New Japan Pro Wrestling, she pulled out of an appearance that she was advertised for months in advance, and it seemed to really upset some people on that side of the business. In reality, this is something you maybe should be forgiven for because a lot of people have done a lot worse, but under these circumstances, under a bidding war, I could see where some people get pretty upset. Business can be ugly in wrestling, and that is the prerogative of talent to look after themselves, especially when they know that major promotions can cut them off at a moment's notice, and that these major promotions are also competing for their talents and the power of their name. Either way, the environment was night and day for Stephanie Vaquer. She revealed in an interview that WWE feels like her teamwork and a giving, caring locker room. So in a way, Vaquer learned a lot and observed a lot in an arduous process to get to WWE. She cried during those training days that were hard, and she may cry a bit now in WWE, but maybe it's more tears of joy. She endured a lot lot outside of pro wrestling in CMLL, including a reported assault from a former partner. We could go into further details, but she has had a long journey to get to where she is. 15 years of toiling to get recognized as one of the premier talents in women's wrestling. She had the option of joining the main roster directly, but she chose WWE NXT so that she could adapt to her new life in the United States while also picking up on English. The it factor that she has is instantly visible under the brightest lights of the business, and it's clear why she spent little time in NXT. It was great to see her competing with the best women's division in all of wrestling, but she always wanted to be on the biggest stage that wrestling has. She may face a major challenge, especially with a Western world audience for WWE, with her English language abilities, but once she has that down, there's going to be no stopping her. Also, if you look at the success of names out of Japan like Io Sky and Asuka, they've proven that if English isn't your first language, you can still have the language of pro wrestling and be fluent in that and be very successful. Still, she's everything WWE could ask for in a marketable, striking, head-turning superstar. She's got a great presence, a wonderful look, the costume, a popularity that is beneath the surface that has people talking, and the reactions have gotten better and better as the weeks have gone on, and the audience is getting wildly in love with her. Stephanie Vaquer is not just somebody coming up the ranks, she's storming up them. In the never-ending effort to try and capture the Latin American and South American markets, she could benefit from all of that. She seems to have all the potential in the world, including someone who could be up there as a main event star with the likes of Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, Liv Morgan, and we could go on. Whether she becomes a WrestleMania main eventer is yet to be seen, but you can bet that she's going to be in numerous world title matches, maybe in WrestleManias in the years to come. She's going to get up there very fast. She's in her early 30s, she looks like she's only beginning to enter her prime, and she has experiences that other women on the roster simply do not have. She has a background as someone who can truly capture an audience, and it's one that makes her unique as a Latin American name who was crafted before she ever got to WWE. Stephanie Vaquer represents the new generation of women superstars in WWE, and she could be one of the biggest flag bearers in the years to come, especially when you consider WWE's true leap into the lucha libre market with the recent purchase of AAA. Let us know what you think of La Primera in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching. Also, subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling and get us to 200,000 subscribers.